Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video, and today I'm going to go ahead and give you one takeaway from every NBA team's first game here in the new season. Some teams have played two, but regardless, everybody's played at least one. The season is in full swing, so I want to give you a takeaway from all those games. I went ahead and ordered the teams alphabetically from Atlanta Hawks to Washington Wizards, with, of course, timestamps in the description if you want to go ahead and find your favorite team, and I'm going to go through and give one takeaway from the team's first game or two. Some of these will be reactionary, because again, it is one game, but it's a fun way to go ahead and talk about everything that's happened on the first few days of the NBA calendar. Let me know down below what you think of my takeaway and what one of your takeaways is for your favorite team. Leave a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos, and let's get into the list. First up for the Hawks, I'm going to say that this is finally the season where Onyeka Okongwu becomes the starting center. It feels like we've been saying for years, this is the season, this is the season. Well, I'm going to say again, this is the season, specifically because he opened the year with a monster performance. 28 points, 8 rebounds, 1 assist, 3 blocks on 11 of 12 shooting, and the chemistry between he and Trey was electric. It was lob after lob after lob after finishing a play at the rim after finishing a play at the rim. He was dunking everything, looked great. He was physical, playing great defensively, did an amazing job, absolutely outplayed Clint Capella. It really wasn't even a conversation with Clint Capella getting older and probably being a candidate to get traded this season. I think Onyeka Okongwu will finally take the starting job and really start to thrive in this new look Hawks team. For the Celtics, I'm going to say that Jayson Tatum is finally going to be an actual MVP candidate this season. He's been an All-NBA first team guy, and it's always felt like, in my opinion, he can get to that MVP conversation, but it's never reached a point where at the end of the year, he's one of these serious contenders. This season, I believe it'll be different because the Celtics look as dominant as ever. They look more dominant. They completely thrashed the New York Knicks and then, not surprisingly, stomped the Washington Wizards, and Tatum was amazing in both games, specifically against the Knicks, a 30-point game with, I think it was 7 threes. He couldn't miss from the outside. He was dissecting them with the playmaking, the decision-making. It feels like Tatum is taking a jump. He is completely locked in. He's got a chip on his shoulder after the Olympic stuff. Tatum's here to go ahead and wreak havoc, and if the Celtics repeat as a 1 seed with KP missing a lot of this beginning portion of the year, I feel like he's going to get serious consideration, especially if he looks like he did through the first 2 games all season. For the Nets, I'm going to say that Cam Thomas is going to average 25 plus points per game this season. He is the clear number 1 guy over there as of right now, and I think it'll only become more and more the case as they trade players throughout the season. I feel like Cam Johnson's probably gone, Dorian Finney-Smith amongst others, maybe Dennis Schroeder. Cam's going to get more and more touches, and he was really good in the first game with a bunch of shots. He shot efficiently. He kept the Nets in the game against the Atlanta Hawks. I'm really excited to see what Cam can do all season. I think he will average over 25, and if the Nets were better, could maybe get a little bit of all-star buzz. For the Hornets, I'm going to say that Thunder legend Trey Mann is going to be a real most improved player guy this season. He looked so good in that first game against the Houston Rockets, had over 20 points. He knocked down a number of threes. He was the second leading scorer behind LaMelo Ball and a huge help to them winning that game, coming back from down 18 against the Rockets team. A lot of people expect him to be pretty good this season. He was great. He was creating a lot of space the way he always did in Oklahoma City, but the shots this time were falling. He was competing on both ends. I'm really excited because Trey was always one of my favorite guys on the Thunder. I loved those moments that he showed, the flashes, but it was never going to come to fruition. It was never going to come all together in OKC with just all the talent over there. Now here in Charlotte, he's got a real chance to shine and establish himself as a piece of that future, and I think he not only will do that, but he's going to make some MVP conversations. For the Chicago Bulls, I'm going to say that Zach LaVine will get traded this season, but more specifically, he's going to net the Bulls at least a first-round pick. He was amazing in that first game against the Pelicans, really could not miss for the first half. Was the big reason why this game was close for even any of it. Was an absolute bucket, and it's a reminder of what Zach LaVine can do when he's healthy. He's still one of the league's most dynamic and electric scorers. The contract is pretty brutal, especially when you consider how often he is hurt, but I believe that by the end of the season, or more so by the trade deadline, LaVine will have a lot of games like this, and he'll convince some team to give up at least a first-round pick, if not multiple, to the Chicago Bulls to go ahead and acquire him, and that would be a massive win for the Bulls on the season. For the Cavs, I'm going to say that Evan Mobley is going to break through to an all-star this season. He's been in those conversations in the past, but this is the season where he actually goes ahead and makes the game. His first game against the Raptors, he was great. He had over 20 points, and he was doing it in a variety of ways. He had a 3. A lot of stuff was coming off the dribble, attacking downhill, finishing through contact. That's something you like to see from Mobley. It's been something something that was a little bit concerning over the first 2 years of his career. It looked like one of the more complete offensive games we've seen from Emo. And if he continues to play like this and the Cavaliers are competing at a high level, of course, Donovan Mitchell's going to make the All-Star game, but I think they could get two with Evan Mobley, especially if the defense continues the way that it showed in that game. And it's Evan Mobley, of course it will, so he just needs that offensive jump, and I feel like after game one, he's going to take a jump. For the Mavs, my takeaway is that we're about to see a Klay Thompson renaissance. He was really good in that first game with the Dallas Mavericks going up against San Antonio, had 6 threes, the record for most threes in a Dallas Mavericks debut. He competed defensively. He wasn't perfect, but he racked up some steals. He was holding his own against some of the guys on the other end. He was fighting for offensive rebounds. It was rejuvenated Klay Thompson, and I'm not surprised because he's been kind of dragged through the mud this offseason, people saying that he's washed, that he's cooked, that he still can't compete. Klay wants to show otherwise, and now that he's playing alongside a great playmaker in Luka, another amazing offensive option, Kyrie Irving, just a much more talented team in Dallas than there was last season in Golden State. He's going to get a lot of opportunities, a lot of open looks, and at least through game one, he made the most of them. If that continues to be the case, the Mavs are a massive problem if they weren't already. For the Nuggets, my takeaway is that the shooting is going to be a massive problem for this team, and it already felt like that was an area of concern going into this year after they lost KCP. I voiced this in the offseason, and game one, it was rough. They shot 18.4%, 7 of 38, 3 of 10 from MPJ, 0 for 3 from Christian Brown, who's supposed to be the Kentavious Caldwell-Pope replacement, and he had some really good minutes. Like, overall played well at 16.7 rebounds. I love the way he attacked downhill, but with the shooting, he was extremely hesitant to even take some of the threes that he did end up taking. He didn't hit a single one. 2 of 5 from Jamal Murray, 1 of 6 from Russell Westbrook, who really did not look great in his first game with Denver. It's concerning stuff, especially when the NBA right now is a shooting league. You need guys to knock down shots to open up the game for Nikola Jokic. It doesn't feel like the Nuggets have enough guys to support him. And if this continues to be a trend that they can't put the ball in the basket from the perimeter, I don't know how the Nuggets get anywhere close to a top 4 seed. For the Pistons, my takeaway is that this is going to be the first All-Star appearance year for Cade Cunningham. He was really good against the Pacers, had 28 points, 5 rebounds, 8 assists, hit a couple of threes, looked solid defensively, was handling extremely well against the Pacers' pressure. Cade was doing everything out there, especially in the second half. He had an 18-point third quarter. I've been waiting for this breakout from Cade, and finally now he has some spacing around him, more NBA talent, a better coach in JB Bickerstaff. This is going to be the year he breaks out to become an all-star caliber player, and people finally go ahead and give him the respect that he deserves. For the Warriors, my takeaway is that Andrew Wiggins might be back. He looked really good against the Blazers. 20 points, 8 of 15 shooting, 4 of 7 from 3, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, playing some good defense. Looked a lot more like himself out there. I'm not saying he's going to get back to the all-star player we saw in 2022, but I do think Wiggins looked a lot more comfortable and a lot more like that guy than the Wiggins we've seen over the past couple of years, where people have been questioning, is he one of the worst contracts in the NBA? So I hope that is the case. I loved what we saw from Wiggins back when the Warriors made the 2022 finals run. It was an amazing career renaissance, and through a single game, he looked really good out there. For the Rockets, my takeaway is that Amen Thompson will have a starting spot by the end of the season. He was really solid, had 13 points, 4 rebounds, a block, 1 of 2 from 3, which he's going to have to hit 3 semi-reliably if he wants to be in that unit, but I love the energy brought to the table, the athleticism, the punch. They need more guys like that. It's not the most athletic starting 5 in the world. Like, Jalen Green is a crazy athlete, but outside of him, there's not a lot, and I feel like Amen Thompson could bring some more of that energy, that pace that the Rockets could really use. They're a young team. Get out and run a little bit more. I felt like they got bogged down over the course of that second half. Big reason why they blew the 18-point lead to the Charlotte Hornets. But yeah, Amen Thompson is just incredibly talented, and I believe he's going to be too good to keep on the bench by the end of the year. For the Pacers, my takeaway is that Benedict Mathurin is going to make real Six-Man of the Year noise, and he was a semi-popular pick to win the award, one of the top guys in terms of the betting odds to win it this season, because he is that spark plug for a pretty good Pacers team, and had a great game. He went out there, and after missing a lot of the second half of last season, had 19 points, 6 rebounds, and 1 assist. Big reason why the Pacers ultimately came back and won this game after being down for a little bit, especially in the third and fourth quarters. Yeah, Mathurin was just really good. Cool to see him back out there hooping and providing that spark, and if he keeps playing anything like this, Six-Man of the Year I don't think is out of the reach. For the Clippers, my takeaway is that if Kawhi doesn't come back at any point soon, this is going to be a nightmare lottery season for the Clippers. They have a solid defense. They held their own against the Phoenix Suns, but it was just kind of James Harden, please save us. A lot of moments out there. They don't have a lot of people that can create their own shot, that can get downhill. Harden was having to do basically everything, and he had a really good game, even when you consider the rough efficiency and some of the turnovers. but they just don't have enough firepower. And even when Kawhi comes back, I don't think he provides a lot. There was a lawsuit issued against them today saying that they horribly mismanaged some of his injuries. There's now a timetable of like multiple weeks until Kawhi gets back. It just feels like the Clippers are rapidly falling apart. If Kawhi Leonard isn't back in uniform within the first couple months of the season, this is a lottery team. For the Lakers, my takeaway is that JJ Redick is going to get real Coach of the Year consideration. Game 1 against the Wolves, the Lakers were really fun. They were getting up threes. They were crashing the offensive glass, putting in a lot of effort. AD was dominating. Dalton connected a pretty solid game. LeBron didn't even do anything that crazy, and they beat a team that was just a top 3 seed in the West. Looks like a brand new Lakers team, and JJ Redick, the actions they're running, was a big part of that. I'm really excited to see how this team continues to play going forward, and I'm already thinking that the Lakers are going to exceed my expectations, and JJ Redick will be in that award conversation by the end of the season. For the Grizzlies, my takeaway is that they need to get healthy fast. Obviously came into the season injured with no Jaren Jackson, no GG Jackson, or Vince Williams, and it showed in game 1. They really could have used Jaren with Lowry out there torching them. They could have used the offensive punch of a GG Jackson, what Vince Williams brings to the table on both sides. They still did win, but it was a dogfight against the Utah Jazz, who are one of the worst teams in the West. It's definitely not a sign of doom or anything like that, but it's just one of those moments where you're like, yeah, the Grizzlies are good and they're going to be fine when they're not healthy, but if they want to be like one of the best teams in the West like they want to be, they need everybody back, and hopefully that happens sooner than later. For the Heat, my takeaway is that the offense is again going to be kind of a disaster. They were destroyed by the Orlando Magic, and if you thought the offense was bad last year, don't go watch the highlights of this game. There weren't many on the offensive end for the Miami Heat. Jimmy Butler wasn't good, Bam Adebayo wasn't great, Tyler Hero was pretty solid, but it wasn't enough to go ahead and get them there. Nobody really performed at that high of a level on the offensive end, and the Magic are a great defensive team, so that's a big part of that, but it doesn't instill confidence in me that they're going to be better offensively this season, which they need to be if they want to be more than a repeat 8 seed out there in the Eastern Conference. So maybe a trade needs to come, maybe they just got to figure something out. It might just take time, but this game definitely did not give me any hope that the Heat will be a semi-watchable offense this season. For Milwaukee, I think a Dame bounce-back season is underway. Had 30 points in his first contest against the Sixers, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, 6 of 12 shooting. He was really good out there, looking a lot more like the Dame the Bucks wanted to see more of last season. And I felt like he and Giannis did a good job of picking and choosing their shots, when to defer to each other. Giannis in particular really kind of let Dame cook for majority of this game, and it ended up working. They got the win. They ended up pulling away from the Sixers in the end. I've been saying I'm hopeful that Dame is going to bounce back and have a big year for Milwaukee, and this game gave me more hope. For the Timberwolves, my takeaway is that this thing is going to be a roller coaster, and that was always going to be the case when they suddenly made the Julius Randle cat swap, but through the first 2 games, it's definitely true. They went ahead and lost the Lakers on opening night, but it was semi-close, and then they won a nail-biter over the Sacramento Kings in their second game last night, and Julius Randle in the first game was kind of dejected. The effort was not there, even though the numbers looked decent, and game 2, he was a monster, had a 30-point game, couldn't be stopped, hit a number of threes, and was the biggest reason why they won. So that's going to be an experience. Anthony Edwards is shooting a bunch of threes to open the season. I believe he shot 28 combined over the first 2 games. Don't love that. Would love if he got his head down and kind of just went downhill more, but clearly he's trying to take those. It's going to be a weird season for Minnesota. I still think they're going to be good, but we'll have to see how good, because there are going to be some high highs and some probably pretty low lows. For the Pelicans, Yves Missi might be the big that they're looking for. 12 points, 7 rebounds, 1 assist, a steal, and 3 blocks in his first game, 5 of 8 shooting. Really impressive. He did a great job of finishing around the rim through contact, grabbing offensive rebounds. He had this nice little hook shot at one point, catching oops. I'm excited by Yves Missi. I was hoping that he would get some good run with this team. He felt like the most viable big option out of the ones they have on their roster, and after game 1, definitely still looks like the case. For the Knicks, my takeaway is that Deuce McBride should probably start for this team, mainly because Josh Hart was being completely ignored in that first game against the Boston Celtics. They were letting him shoot. They weren't worried about it at all, and it really mucked up the offense. Meanwhile, Deuce McBride came in and went crazy, knocking down 3 after 3, had around 20 points. You could argue they could use that off the bench because they don't have a lot of great depth and a lot of creation off the bench, but he just feels like one of those players that fits in so well with that starting lineup. They are going to lose some rebounding and size, which I am also concerned about, but I feel like when Mitchell Robinson comes back, that'll help with some of it, and ultimately having the shot creation and ability to knock down threes a lot more consistently than Josh Hart in the lineup with inserting Deuce McBride is probably something the Knicks could really benefit from. For the Thunder, my takeaway is that Chet Holmgren is going to pretty easily be an all-star this season. I don't even think it'll be that much of a debate by February. 25 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and 4 blocks blocks against the Denver Nuggets, outplayed Nikola Jokic, 11 of 18 shooting, and that was all without the three-point shot falling. He could not hit a three, but he was really, really good getting through the lane, handling the ball, finishing through contact, had a couple of and ones in this one, had a crazy powerful dunk, denying guys left and right at the rim, and even without the blocks, just deterring players from even trying to shoot down low. Chet is a monster, one of the best defensive bigs in the league, very versatile offensively. He's put on some size, he's got better touch than ever, he is willing to be aggressive, had some great mid-range buckets. Chet did absolutely everything, and you should probably expect a video on him pretty soon if he continues to play like this. For the Magic, meanwhile, Paolo Banchero is currently taking his all-star leap, had a 30-point double-double against the Heat in 3 quarters in the opening game for the Magic, where they, again, decimated Miami, and it was a lot of stuff I was hoping to see from Paolo throughout the season. The footwork was amazing, the shot selection was great, he realized that he's this freak of nature that nobody can stop when he gets down low, and so he was attacking relentlessly at the basket, but still hitting those threes that he's gotten better and better at taking and making. Paolo feels like he's really starting to figure it out. The game is slowing down for him, and if he plays the way that he did in game 1 for a majority of the season, the Magic are not only going to be a scary team, they're going to be an outright terrifying force in the East. For the Sixers, my takeaway is that the supporting cast is going to be pretty solid for this team. Despite no Embiid, no Paul George, they kept this game pretty close with the Bucks for a lot of it. Did end up getting blown out in the end, but Kelly Oubre, 21 points along the way. You got a double-double from Andre Drummond. You got 12 points from Caleb Martin and 9 boards. 10 points from Yabusele, who I thought did a great job mucking it up down low with Giannis, grabbing some steals, some high energy plays. 13 and 6 from Kyle Lowry. Guys performed. I feel like once Embiid and Paul George get back and they're fully in this lineup, the Sixers are going to be really scary, and a big part of that is because they've got some serious depth on this team. For Phoenix, it was pretty clear that the point guards were really helpful in this game. Tyus Jones and Monte Morris combined for 48 minutes, and not a single turnover between the two of them. Now, KD, Devin Booker had a lot of turnovers, but those two really took care of the ball. They set up the offense, and I felt like it was really useful down the stretch to have Tyus Jones out there to set the table, to be a reliable player that you knew wasn't going to throw the ball away, and it led to them making a fourth quarter comeback after last year being an abysmal fourth quarter team. They forced overtime, they ended up winning in OT. I think it's going to make a real difference for the Suns. They just now need to get everybody else to really cut down on those turnovers. For the Blazers, my takeaway is that a fire sale is needed from this team. They're going to be bad enough to get a Cooper Flag type pick in this year's draft. The tank is going to be natural, but something that frustrated me in this game is that the Blazers got blown up by the Warriors, but it felt like the young guys didn't play as much as they should. Like less than 15 minutes for Donovan Clingan, who I thought looked good in his minutes. I would have loved to see more from some of their other developing pieces, rather than like Jeremy Grant getting minutes and DeAndre Ayton. They need to move off from some of these guys at the deadline. They really need to go all in on this youth movement and give guys experience, chances to go out there and make mistakes, explore their games in the early stages of the rebuild. For right now, they're kind of in this weird limbo where they are really bad, but they've got these veterans that are just taking up minutes from the guys who probably need it more. For the Kings, the takeaway is that the bench is a real problem for this team. It was one of my biggest concerns going into the season, and you saw it tonight where they lost to Minnesota in their opening game, but their starters were great, like 26 from DeRozan, 23 from Keegan Murray, 24 from Sabonis, only 15 from Fox. He wasn't the best in this game, but outside of those guys on the bench, 17 from Malik Monk, and then 2 from Keon Ellis, 3 from Trey Lyles, 3 from Alex Len. For the Wolves, they got 19 alone from Naz Reid. You got 9 from Dante DiVincenzo. You got 9 from Nickeil Walker. Big depth difference there, despite the starters playing really well for the Kings. They're going to have to add some type of piece. I don't think Malik Monk can do all the heavy lifting off the bench on his own. We'll have to see who that is. I mean, Devin Carter, I think, will make a difference when he comes back, but it's not going to be enough. They're going to have to add somebody. It just is a matter of when. For the Spurs, my takeaway is that Wemby's shot diet needs to be better in their loss to the Mavericks. There are way too many threes, pull-up mid-range jumpers, turnaround jumpers, things like that, and not nearly enough, hey, throw a lob to Wemby. He's right there. He's 7'4". He can just drop it up and in over the defender or getting it down low in the block and going to work. Part of that was because the entry passes were still bad. There was one where Jeremy Sohan threw a bounce pass to 7'4" Victor Wembanyama, who was calling for it above his head, and it resulted in a turnover. They're still trying to figure out how to best utilize Wemby. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some time for Chris Paul to get integrated into this thing and for that duo to really work. But I think a lot of it does start with Wemby. Stop settling for so many threes. Get on the interior. Like, you can definitely take and make those shots, but I think that should more so be a luxury rather than the focus. For the Raptors, my takeaway is that Grady Dick's going to have a really solid season. He ended the year pretty well, which I don't think a lot of people realized because the Raptors were bad, so probably not a lot of people tuned in, but he had a good end to the year. And first game, he was pretty inefficient, but I liked a lot of what we saw from him, from the self-creation to the spot-up shots. There was one move he had really nice that was out of the corner, and he attacked downhill and had really good touch around the rim, a really creative finish. So yeah, I'm excited about Grady Dick as a player. I think he's going to have a pretty good season. Amongst probably not the most successful year for the Raptors, he will be a bright spot. For the Jazz, my takeaway is that they're going to have the chance to do an all-time fire sale if they decide to do so, because the pieces that could theoretically get moved, looked great in this first game. Walker Kessler, 16 points, 14 rebounds, 5 blocks. So rumors surrounding him in the summer. If he continues to play like this, I'm sure those are only going to heat up as teams really vie for his services. And then Colin Sexton, who I have continued to say is one of the more underrated players in the league. And the second he gets out of Utah, he's going to get more appreciation. 16 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, 5 of 8 shooting in 25 minutes. Both those guys could get moved for a bunch of assets, in my opinion. And if the Jazz really want to go full in on this rebuild and move them, they're going to get a lot in return. And finally, my takeaway for the Washington Wizards is that we're in for a Jordan Poole bounce back season. First game of the year against the Celtics, 26 points, 4 assists, 4 steals, a block, and a rebound, 6 of 11 shooting from 3, 9 of 17 from the floor. Fantastic. Need to see more of this from Jordan Poole, because last season, after everybody was hype on him saying, oh, he's in a new spot in Washington, he's going to go for the scoring title, he's going to put up a billion shots, he was terrible and quickly established himself as one of the worst contracts in the entire NBA. Really need him to continue to play more like this, because the Jordan Poole we saw back in 2022 on the championship run was one of the most fun players in the league to watch as that microwave guard. I mean, showing out like this against the best team in the NBA, one of the best defensive guard tandems we've ever seen, is definitely a big plus in his favor. So I'm going to go ahead and buy in and say Jordan Poole is going to be in for some type of bounce back year. And with all that being said, those are my takeaways for all 30 teams from their first games of the season. Again, let me know down below what you thought of my takeaway for your favorite team and what one of yours is. Leave a like and subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. Let me know what other teams and topics you want to see me cover all throughout the season, because there's going to be a ton of content coming. And yeah, I appreciate y'all watching. I'll see y'all later. Real one, say it back.